What brings you by?" She hesitated. "Can't I just visit my mom without a reason?" I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. The silence did the work. She sighed. "Okay, fine. We're having a little issue with the girls' after-school pickup. Our neighbor who usually helps is going out of town for 2 weeks, and Mark thought maybe you could step in. Just for a few days a week. We'd owe you big." I didn't even flinch. "You brought me lasagna so I would babysit." "No," she said, a little too quickly. "I mean, it's not just that. We miss you. The girls do. They keep asking about you." I folded a towel slowly. "Did they ask about my birthday?" She blinked. "What?" "My birthday. You remember it, right?" She looked away. "It's been crazy lately. I thought I did text you." "You didn't. None of you did. But you remembered me when you needed something. Again." Rachel sat down at the kitchen table, suddenly small in her chair. "I guess I didn't realize how hurt you were." "You didn't want to realize. There's a difference." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The truth sat between us like a brick wall. "Mom, we just thought you liked helping. You never said anything." I set down the laundry basket and finally met her eyes. "You didn't ask. Not once." She looked down at her hands, the ones that had clapped when I walked her down the aisle, the ones that I held through labor, the same hands that now came empty, of apology, full of expectation. "So, is that a no?" I didn't answer. I walked to a drawer and pulled out a folder. It had receipts, notes, dates, a quiet archive of every favor, every deposit, every emergency I had covered without question. I placed it in front of her. "What's this?" "Everything I've done for this family over the past 10 years. All the ways I've been there, even when I was tired, even when I was hurting, even when I had to put off my own bills. Read it or don't. But leave here knowing this. I'm not available anymore." She didn't touch the folder. She looked stunned. Not angry, just stunned. "So you're cutting us off?" "No. I'm cutting off the version of me who let everyone else matter more than she did." Rachel stood up slowly. "I didn't realize you kept track. I didn't. Until I had to." She looked like she wanted to cry. But not for me. For herself. For the sudden shift in power she didn't expect. For the realization that the quiet mother who always said yes had finally found her voice. "I don't know what to say," she said, softly. "Then don't say anything. Just go." She left without touching the lasagna. I watched her pull away from the window, the same way I used to watch her leave for college or for work or for vacation. But this time, I didn't wonder when she'd be back, because now it would be on my terms, and I was just getting started. 2 months passed, 2 whole months without a single request, favor or crisis, tossed at my doorstep. For a while I expected the silence to be temporary, like a storm gathering itself before lashing out. But it never came. The silence stayed, and it began to sound like peace. I filled the space they left behind with things that made me feel alive. My watercolor class became a weekly anchor. My book club turned into real friendships. I met a woman named Lorraine, widowed like me, who invited me to her knitting circle. I hadn't picked up needles in years, but it came back quickly, like muscle memory. We laughed more than we knitted. I bought a little planner and began scheduling time just for me, not chores, not errands for anyone else, just me. Time to walk around the botanical garden, time to cook something new, time to sit on my porch and listen to the world pass by, For the first time, my time felt like mine. One Thursday afternoon, I was in the kitchen finishing up a painting. A little scene of a weathered farmhouse at sunset, when I got a text from Sarah. "Hey, heard from Rachel that you've been quiet. We were thinking of doing a dinner next weekend. Just the siblings. Can you come?" No mention of me being their mother. No apology. No reflection. I stared at the message for a moment. Then I wrote, "Thanks, but I already have plans." I didn't, but I would. A week later, Rachel called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Hey, Mom. Just wondering if you got Sarah's message. We haven't seen you in a while. We know you've been going through something, and we just want you to know we're here. And the girls really want to see you. Please call back." That last part used to be my weakness. The girls want to see you. It would have tugged at me, pulled me in. But not this time, because now I knew something they didn't. I still loved them. But I loved myself too. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Mark. "Mom, we know things have been strained. We probably haven't done the best job showing appreciation. I guess we took for granted that you'd always be there. You always were, and we got used to that. Rachel told me about your talk. I think it really shocked her. I won't make excuses, but I do want you to know we notice now. We see it, and we miss you. Love, Mark." I read it twice, 3 times. Then I folded it and placed it in a drawer, not to forget it, but to remind myself that acknowledgement isn't the same as change. I didn't reach out. Then in early spring, my birthday came again, quietly. I didn't mark it on the calendar. I didn't mention it to anyone. I didn't wait by the phone. Instead, I booked a weekend trip to the mountains, a solo cabin stay. I packed books, paints, and my favorite sweater. The morning of my birthday, I woke up to birdsong and the sound of wind rustling through trees. I made myself pancakes from scratch. I painted a sunrise from the back porch. I didn't check my phone. Not once. Not even out of curiosity. Because this birthday wasn't about who remembered. It wasn't about texts or calls or fake cheerfulness. It was about me, celebrating myself. A woman who had spent most of her life pouring out and was finally learning how to pour back in. When I returned home, there were messages, missed calls, even a card in the mailbox from Rachel, signed with shaky handwriting from the girls. I appreciated it. I truly did. But I didn't call back. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, out of peace. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is not answer, not explain. Just let the silence do what your words never could. For the first time in 65 years, I spent my birthday exactly how I wanted. No expectations, no obligations, just me. And it was the best one I've ever had. I woke up before the sun that morning. I always do, out of habit more than necessity. But that day felt different, even if no one else noticed. I turned 65. I sat on the edge of my bed, looking at the framed photos on my dresser. My son Mark in his college graduation gown, my daughter Rachel holding her first baby, our old Labrador Daisy, who'd passed the year before. Pieces of a life I poured myself into. A life built around other people. For other people. I was never one to ask for much. I always thought if I just gave enough, loved enough, they'd never forget. The house was quiet. It had been since my husband passed away 6 years ago. I had learned to live with the silence, even make peace with it. But that morning it felt different. It wasn't peaceful. It was loud in its emptiness. The kind of silence that presses on your chest. I made a pot of coffee and stood at the counter, listening to it drip. I opened the fridge and took out the small cake I had bought myself 2 days ago. It had pink frosting and the words, "Happy birthday, Mom." I had asked the woman at the bakery to write it. She didn't even look me in the eye when she handed it over. I guess you lose a certain kind of visibility when you get older. I set the cake on the counter and just stared at it. I knew no one else was going to bring one. I felt a little ridiculous, lighting the candle alone. But I did it anyway, because someone should. I checked my phone at 8 a.m., then 8:15, then 8:45. Nothing. By noon, my heart had dropped into that familiar, quiet ache. I refreshed my Facebook page, hoping maybe someone had remembered. A cousin from Michigan had written, "Happy birthday to the best bridge partner." That was it. No messages from Mark, no call from Rachel. I tried to justify it. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they were planning something. Maybe I was being too sensitive. That's the thing about being ignored by the people you love. You start blaming yourself for it. At 3 Rad, I set the table for one. I cut a slice of the cake and sat down with it, and a cup of lukewarm coffee. I lit the candle again just for a moment, just so the flame would feel like something alive. I made a wish, even though I knew it wouldn't come true. I wished someone would remember me. Not for help, not for money, just for me, after dinner, if you could call cake and coffee dinner. I sat on the couch and flipped through channels. Nothing held my attention. I eventually landed on a rerun of some baking competition. I turned the volume low. I wasn't watching, anyway. I was just trying not to cry. I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Mark and Rachel as kids. Birthday parties I had organized. Costumes I had sewn by hand. Cakes I stayed up all night to bake. I remembered their smiles, their laughter, the way they used to cling to my legs when they were scared. I remembered how important I once was. But somewhere along the way, I became optional, a background character. Useful, but forgettable. I stood up from the couch and walked into the kitchen. I poured myself another cup of coffee and leaned against the counter, staring out the window. The neighbors' houses were all dark. The street was still. My whole world felt frozen in place. I felt like a ghost in my own home. I thought about calling someone. An old friend, maybe. But the truth is, I hadn't spoken to many of them in years. Life happened. People moved on. I had poured everything into my family. I didn't know what was left for me outside of them. At 7:04 p.m., I checked the mailbox, more out of habit than hope. Bills, a flyer for carpet cleaning, and a coupon for a pizza place I never go to. I threw them on the counter and sighed. I went back to the living room and pulled out an old scrapbook. It was full of memories, vacations, school plays, Christmas mornings. I had written little notes next to the photos back then. Things like Mark's first snowman, or Rachel's 6th birthday, the unicorn cake. I had forgotten how carefully I documented everything, as if I knew one day I'd need proof that I mattered. The phone sat beside me, on the couch, screen black. I kept glancing at it, willing it to light up. Every minute that passed made it harder to pretend. At 9:47 p.m., I turned off the phone and placed it face down. That was it. The day was over. They had forgotten. Or maybe they remembered and chose to do nothing. I didn't know which hurt more. Went to bed early. Couldn't sleep. My chest felt tight, as if it knew something my brain didn't want to admit. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shocked. I was just so tired. Tired of being the one they only called when something was wrong. tired of waiting for love that never came. Just as I was about to drift off, my phone buzzed. I reached for it. My heart jumped. Traitor that it is. Still hoping. It was Mark, but it wasn't a birthday message. Hey, Mom. Sorry to bother you late. You think you could help us out with the car repair? The engine's acting up again. Rachel said you might be able to spot us until next paycheck. No happy birthday. No, how are you? Just a request. Just a transaction. I put the phone back down without responding. I stared at the ceiling, eyes wide open, heart sinking lower than I thought possible. My throat felt dry. I swallowed hard, trying to push back the tears that burned at the corners of my eyes. He didn't forget me. He just didn't think my birthday mattered. And maybe that hurt more than forgetting ever could. The next morning I woke up feeling like my insides had been wrung out. My body ached in that deep, invisible way that grief sits in your bones. I didn't sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, Mark's message echoed in my head. He didn't forget me. He just didn't care. I stood in the kitchen, holding my cup of coffee, staring out the window at the still morning. The street looked the same. My house looked the same. But something inside me had shifted. Something small, but sharp. A splinter in the soul. I didn't reply to the message. Not right away. I needed to think. Not about the money. About everything else. About how often they only contacted me when they needed something. I knew the pattern, but I never wanted to name it. I always gave them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they meant well. Maybe I was expecting too much. But I was tired. I had reached the point where excuses didn't work anymore. By mid-morning, Mark texted again. Mom, did you see my message? We kind of need to know soon. The mechanic gave us a deadline. Still no mention of my birthday. Still no acknowledgement. I replied only one word. I saw. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Mark. Hey, he said, his voice casual. Too casual. I was starting to think something was wrong. Nothing's wrong, I said flatly. So, what do you think? We need about $450. The garage said they can't keep the car past Friday. It's Rachel's car, and you know she needs it to get to work. I let silence stretch between us. I could hear him fidgeting on the other end. A part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to sob. But what I did was worse. I kept my voice level. You know what yesterday was? Silence. Yesterday? I waited. Was it? Oh. He paused. Your birthday. Yes. Mom, I'm sorry. I totally spaced. Things have been crazy here. We've had so much going on with the girls' school and Rachel's schedule, and it's fine. I cut him off. You forgot. It happens. He hesitated. So, can you help us out with the car? I felt the words catch in my throat. I swallowed them back down. I need to think about it. Think about it? Mom, it's kind of urgent. I said I need to think. Okay, he said, clearly irritated. Just let me know soon. He hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. The part of me that always rushed to help, that tried to fix everything, that kept peace even when no one else did. It was quiet now. I opened the drawer where I kept my records. I pulled out my bank statements. Highlighted were transfers, receipts, cash apps, checks, groceries I paid for when they were tight on money, new shoes for the girls, plane tickets for their anniversary getaway, the down payment I covered when they bought their second car, and birthday gifts. Not mine, theirs. $250 for Rachel's birthday dinner last year. $400 for Mark's new work laptop, $150 for a trampoline for the girls. I added it up. I wasn't even halfway through the last 2 years and the total was already over $6,000. And they forgot my birthday. Worse than that. They remembered me only when they needed something. I was a bank account with a voice, a refrigerator with legs, never a person, never their mother. I spent the rest of the day walking through the house, sitting, for long stretches thinking, not just about Mark, about Rachel too. She had called 2 weeks ago, but it wasn't to check on me. It was to ask if I could pick up the girls from school. Then she didn't return my call for a week after that. And Sarah, my youngest, hadn't called in months. I used to tell myself that motherhood was about giving without expecting anything in return. But even the strongest wells run dry eventually. The next morning I opened my banking app. My thumb hovered over the list of automatic transfers. I canceled the monthly grocery allowance. I removed the linked accounts. I even deleted the shared login Mark had to my Amazon account. It felt petty. It also felt necessary. My phone buzzed. Another message from Mark. "Any update on the money?" I replied. "No." Less than a minute later, he called. "Mom, what's going on? Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, "but I'm not doing this anymore." Doing what? Being the one who gets remembered only when there's a bill due. "This is about your birthday? You're blowing this way out of proportion." "No, Mark, this is about years of being invisible unless you're short on cash. Short on cash. This is about not even getting a call until you need something." Wow. I didn't realize you'd been keeping score. I wasn't. But now I am. He was quiet. I imagined his face, tight jaw, annoyed eyes, not because he was hurt, but because I was finally saying no. "You're seriously going to leave us stuck like this?" "Yes." "Unbelievable." He hung up, and for once, I didn't cry. I sat on the couch, picked up the remote, and turned off the TV. No distractions. Just the weight of 1,000 small heartbreaks, finally settling into place. It wasn't about the money. It was about the moment I realized I had become nothing more than a transaction. The next few days passed like slow, silent waves. There were no calls, no texts, just stillness. It was the kind of silence that used to make me anxious, but now it felt like oxygen, like stepping out of a stuffy room into fresh air. I didn't regret saying no. I expected guilt to come. It always did before, but this time it didn't. I felt calm. I didn't know an explanation. I didn't know anything, still. I couldn't stop thinking about the years that led up to that moment. The favors, the errands, the constant giving. I pulled out my old notebook, the one I used to keep track of things. Budgets, grocery lists, appointments. On the back pages were scribbles from years ago. Watch girls while Rachel's at work. Cover Mark's rent. Urgent. Loan for Sarah's dental work. I started flipping through bank statements, piecing it all together. Page after page. Transaction after transaction, like an archaeological dig of my own invisibility. Mark and Rachel had needed help often, and I gave it freely, not because I had so much to give, but because I believed it was what mothers did. Groceries, $200 a month for 2 years. New tires, $600. Preschool enrollment, when $400, flight to Florida. $980, it added up to over $17,000 in 5 years. I sat back, in my chair and stared at the total. That money wasn't the part that hurt. It was the silence that came with it. The lack of thank yous. The expectation that I would just keep showing up. And birthdays. I went through photos and text threads. I had never missed one of theirs. Not Rachel's, not Mark's, not the grandkids. Every year, a gift, a call, a cake. I had driven 4 hours once to deliver a handmade costume for my granddaughter's school play. Mark barely came to my house on holidays. The math was clear. The emotional math even clearer. I wasn't part of the family. I was the family ATM. On Wednesday, I drove to the grocery store. For once, I didn't fill a cart with extras for anyone but me. No diapers, no gluten-free cereal, no last-minute additions from texts that said, "Could you grab this too?" I bought a steak, a small bottle of wine, a chocolate bar I didn't have to share. I walked through the aisles without rushing. No one was waiting on me. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a burden. I felt like a person. Back home, I cooked my steak just the way I liked it. Medium rare, seasoned with rosemary. I set the table for one, placed the wine glass carefully, and lit a candle. Not for celebration, but for peace. While I ate, my phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. "Hey," Mark said, "you're mad. What's going on? Are you okay?" I stared at it for a long time, then typed, "I'm fine. Just reevaluating some things." Her reply came quickly. "Did we do something wrong?" That question made something twist inside me. As if she genuinely didn't know. As if the neglect, the constant taking, the absence of affection, none of that registered as wrong. I didn't respond. I didn't know how to explain decades of pain in a single text. The next day, I got a call from Sarah. I hadn't heard her voice in over 3 months. "Mom, I just realized I never called about your birthday. I feel awful. Things have been nuts. Over here." "That's okay," I said, voice quiet. "Mark told me you were acting weird. Are you mad at everyone?" "I'm not mad. I'm just done giving more than I receive." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm setting boundaries." Sarah was silent. Then she laughed awkwardly. "Wow. Okay, this is new. Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm sure." She changed the subject quickly. Talked about a new project at work, a friend's baby shower. I listened, nodded, but felt distant. Like we were on different wavelengths. Like I was no longer playing my usual part in their story. That night, I opened my laptop and searched for community centers near me. I found a watercolor class starting next week. I signed up. Then I found a book club at the library. I signed up for that too. I wanted to remember who I was when I wasn't a mother. Who I had been before my entire identity became wrapped around serving others. The house was quiet, but it no longer felt like punishment. It felt like freedom. I went to bed with a clear mind. No guilt, no heaviness. For the first time in a very long time, I fell asleep, feeling whole. It didn't take long for the silence to shift. At first, it was that peaceful kind. No buzzing phone, no heavy sighs from the other end of a call. No vague comments about how tight things were financially. But by the end of the week, something changed. The silence turned into noise again. Not direct confrontation, but those subtle intrusions. The ones that came wrapped in guilt and fake concern. Mark messaged me. "Are you okay, Mom? Haven't heard from you." Rachel sent a picture of the girls baking cookies. "They miss you." Sarah texted. "I hope everything's okay. You've been kind of distant." It wasn't affection. It was a check-in to see if their resource had dried up for good. I didn't reply. Instead, I went to the first watercolor class at the community center. I hadn't painted in over 30 years. My hands were shaky at first, and I was the oldest person in the room, but no one looked at me like I was a burden. Everyone was too busy creating, laughing softly, wiping their brushes on paper towels. I left that room with a small painting of a window, and the strange feeling that I had done something purely for myself. That night, I went through my phone and deleted a dozen saved passwords and auto-pay links, Mark's Amazon access, Rachel's DoorDash profile, the shared Netflix account with Sarah, one by one, gone. I didn't announce it. I didn't explain. I just closed the doors that should never have been opened without respect. 2 days later, Rachel called. Not a text, a real call. Mom, she started cheerful. We're doing a barbecue this weekend, just a small thing. Thought you might want to come. I waited. Then she added, could you bring your famous potato salad? And maybe those folding chairs from your garage. Mark said ours are busted. There it was, the ask. I can't, I said simply. She paused. Oh, why not? I'm busy. Busy with what? My own plans. It was quiet on her end. I could almost hear the surprise settle in. Okay, she said slowly. Well, if you change your mind. I won't. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet again. But this time it was filled with something new. Confidence. Resolve. Later that day, I got a message from Mark. Rachel said you're not coming. Is everything all right? I replied, everything is fine. Just doing less these days. He didn't answer. The next day, Sarah called. Mom, are you mad at us or something? Because if you are, we can talk about it. I'm not mad, I said. I'm just finally treating myself the way I should have been treated all along. She didn't know what to say. None of them did. They weren't used to me saying no. They weren't used to me not jumping, not offering, not filling every gap with my own time and money. And maybe, most of all, they weren't used to me not needing their crumbs of affection. I spent Saturday morning in my new book club. We read a novel about a woman who vanishes from her own life, only to rediscover herself years later. It felt familiar. Afterward, some of us went out for coffee. I didn't talk much, but I listened, and that was enough. It felt like I was slowly being stitched back together. That evening, I got a voicemail from Rachel. I don't know what's gotten into you, but the girls were really sad you didn't come. I had to tell them you weren't feeling well. I hope that's not a lie. I hope you're not just cutting us off. That would be really sad, Mom. I listened to it once, then deleted it. No one had asked me how my birthday was. No one had said, thank you for the years I spent showing up without being asked. They didn't miss me. They missed the free babysitter, the last-minute grocery runner, the extra set of hands. I wasn't angry. I just understood now. And understanding changes everything. It had been almost 3 weeks since the night I told Rachel I wouldn't come to their barbecue. 3 weeks of quiet, of brief, hollow texts, of no real phone calls, of no one asking how I was or what I needed. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't ache for their voices. I didn't refresh my messages. I didn't check to see if I missed a call. Then one afternoon, while I was in the middle of folding laundry and listening to music, something upbeat, something I hadn't let myself enjoy in years. There was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. My heart did a little flip, out of habit. Hope was a hard thing to kill, even when you knew better. I opened the door to find Rachel standing there, holding a foil-covered tray and wearing a too bright smile. "Hi, Mom," she said, as if she'd been stopping by every week. I didn't move to hug her. I just opened the screen door and stepped aside. "Come in." She looked around as she entered, like she was inspecting the place. She put the tray on the counter. "I brought lasagna. Thought you might like something homemade." I didn't, Ask if she remembered my favorite was chicken pot pie. Thank you, I said, not moving to uncover it. So,